What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale, joined by Mort Jensen of the NBA podcast fame, of Forbes fame, of Yahoo Sports fame, and of OnlyFans celebrity. We're going to overreact to Pacers Cavaliers game one and the rest of the series. Mort, picked the Cavs to win in 5. That has aged about as well as Cody Zeller's hairline. What are your thoughts? What's your biggest takeaway or one biggest overarching thought coming out of that game one between Indy and Cleveland? And why is it, Darius Garland might be a little important?
Yeah, look, there's been some narrative around the internet lately that, maybe Darius Garland wasn't as crucial. But like, if you're building that off of the Heat series, you're nuts. You're just nuts. I will say I also had Cleveland in 5, although I did hedge my bet a little bit at Yahoo, and I did include maybe 6 because
You're one of those.
I am, for a reason, because it's the only series in the playoffs that I'm probably going to do that in, because the Pacers. Here's the thing. I've said this to you on this show as well before. This team has a floor that is so incredibly high. Like, whenever they win games, it's never because it's someone just going bonkers. It's always this very team-oriented thing. We've seen it all throughout the course of the regular season as well. Like, I think they might be the most consistent team in the NBA. Like, I haven't done the statistical analysis in terms of like how much their point total swings or their defensive ranking swings, but it just feels like you absolutely know what you're going to get with this team, and it is competitive spirit, it's defense, it's offense, it is them rising to the moment, it's role players stepping up. You're just never at a point where you feel as though they're going to lose something by a gazillion point. You're never there.
The last 60 or 70 games, including the playoffs, that's definitely the vibe that they've given off, and their defense has been way better than people expected. Yep. And I'm clearly wrong about this series so far, but I was in front of, I also declared I was out on them, but I was in front of other people's no, this team is a threat. And me picking the Cavaliers in 5, I underestimated the significance of the Darius Garland big toe injury. I thought it was really it's the Heat. That's why they're holding him out. But it turns out it's not that. And I also just have all the respect in the world for the Cavs. Didn't have enough for the Pacers. And I think coming out of game one, there did feel like there was a level of the Cavs talked a lot about, they play so fast, we have to be ready. And then really didn't seem like they were ready for it. But what I think I've probably underestimated the most about Indiana, even as I've talked about their functional depth, which I sort of define as, it's not just regular season depth. It's you can pull these different levers in the playoffs, play different guys, go deeper than maybe some other teams. The number of ways in which they can attack you, in which they can generate maybe switches that they want without making it feeling like they're hunting. The different cadences at which they could play now, ever since Pascal Siakam has come here. So they're I call them the third best team in the East. I would stand by that. They might prove they're the second best team in the East with the way things are going right now. I would also caution, though, if I'm the Cavs, I'm just not panicking. I think there's things that they could clean up. And aside from the Garland absence, I do think one of the things, and I'm not sure if you noticed this, I know part of it is ingrained into their base defense, but there was just too many wide open threes that they conceded to Indy. And it felt like after the first quarter, when Indy shot 82% or 83% from 2-point range, that Cleveland was like, oh no, we need to play off more of these shooters, especially if Jarrett Allen is he's going to be switched on to Halliburton. And I get that impetus, but when you're not hitting your threes at the same clip, and when you don't have Darius Garland to help you maybe climb out of that, I think you need to play it. I don't even want to say more straight up, but just like Max Strus doesn't need to drift over 15 feet to the strong side and off his guy because Jarrett Allen has switched on to Tyrese Halliburton. You live with Tyrese Halliburton getting in the lane and hope maybe your backside rotations are better, to me. But I thought that was something that Cleveland has, because some teams you look at it, and I would say maybe the Knicks are of teams that are still alive in the playoffs, where if they get beat doing something specific, I don't know if they have the tools to fix this. With Cleveland, when I watched it, the two things were, all right, Donovan Mitchell's going to shoot better. Although I do think that reinforced the importance of Garland. He had Mitchell in that game one had the second highest usage rate of the year for himself. So it's they need Garland to kind of help map out the floor.
Yep.
But Mitchell will hit more of his shots. And I think Cleveland's defense can be a lot better. I know there was a lot of talk about their offense, the shots they missed, and also just I think they were a minus 30 from 3-point range. But I actually think the biggest thing that stood out, again, aside from that all-star sized hole with Darius Garland not there, was okay, hey, like you need to I'm not even saying play up on them more because you don't want some of their ball handlers to get by you, but I'm just not freaking out. Like there was Jarris Walker got in the lane and Cleveland's defense is like working itself. And I'm like, no, that doesn't need to happen.
I agree. I do have a question there. So, because there's sort of a litmus test here. We saw at one point DeAndre Hunter more or less conceding a three to Benedict Mathurin. Like he just played off of him. Mathurin pulled up and he nailed it. Is Mathurin the type of guy where you feel comfortable doing that? Because I can go back and forth a little bit.
Where are you talking about playing up on him or just sagging off of him?
Yeah, sagging off. Like because he hit 34% in the regular season. He's streaky. So like if that is a conscious choice on behalf of Cleveland to say, look, we are fine if Benedict Mathurin beats us.
Right.
I'm probably okay with that specific game plan, but it's the ripple effect that I probably have an issue with because when he hit that shot, they had it cooking. They had it brewing. Things were working. And I think as a team, you get on this collective roll. And it just struck me as odd that specific point in time when everyone else was hitting, that Hunter was like, no, Ben, it's fine. You can take that three. We're like,
I think so. What you're saying, I definitely think that you should be basing it more off the flow of the game where it's if
right.
we're not hitting our threes and there's like Nesmith and Nembhard, as an example, were 9 of 10 on wide open threes. And so it's like, okay, like there needs to be maybe some type of adjustment there. I think as a player, if you're going to do that with Benedict what was Mathurin? 3 of 5 from 3. If I'm Cleveland, if he does that every game, fine. I guess I was more concerned. I agree with you though. Like when you're looking at how the game is unfolding, maybe it's time to be more aggressive there. But I think I was more concerned about like, Indy's actually in their half court offense.
Right.
There are guys getting downhill. It happened with Mathurin. I said it happened with Walker. I almost get the impetus to overreact when it's Tyrese Halliburton. But even when it's Andrew Nembhard, I was like, you guys don't need to be flying around off of other guys. It sets up too many easy looks for the Pacers.
This is playoff Nembhard, though. Apparently, that's different. Well, that is different.
Again, fine, but like the Benedict Mathurin, I think Jarris Walker, I saw him have like 2 drives in that game, and there's way too much attention paid to him getting downhill there. So maybe that's the wrong thing to focus on, but that was sort of the thing that I glom onto. But the Mathurin question is a good one because I think in a vacuum, you just say, if we lost because Benedict Mathurin went 7 of 9 from 3, okay, you want to stick to that model. But it just felt too universal, I guess, is what I was getting. Maybe it took me so long to get here, but that approach felt like it was too universal and not enough case specific.
Right. And I will say also, I loved how Indy actually kind of let Donovan Mitchell be the guy because they invited him into the lane several times. It's the old Vince Carter defense. And for those who are not as old as me, which is a lot of listeners, I presume, the Vince Carter defense is basically when he was in Toronto, he was very dynamic, but he was inclined to have games where he'd score like 31 points, but it'd take him 29 shots to get there. So you kind of gave him some leeway to take shots because you figured if he's going to absorb all those shots and it's somewhat inefficient, those are shots that's not going to go to open shooters. Those are shots that are not going to go to Mo Pete or whoever was out there at that point in time. Like, look, that defense was also applied to Vince when he made it to New Jersey and was playing with Richard Jefferson and Jason Kidd. So, like, that mentality to apply that to Donovan Mitchell because Garland isn't out there, I thought was smart. They also applied it to Ty Jerome, which, look, if you're scoring 21 points in a game, that's good. But if it takes you 20 shots to get there, it's less good. Let's just be honest. It's less good. With Mitchell, 33 points. Took him 30 shots to get there. 38% of Evan Mobley's shots shots in game one were threes, where he's a 6'11 dynamo who can create his shot down low virtually whenever he wants. But like they kind of gave him that perimeter and to decide, hey, you know what? We were going to give you space to pull up on the break. Where, by the way, can we just side note, dear Evan Mobley, I know that you've become a better 3-point shooter. Love that, by the way. But when they're backing up like that, that doesn't mean you have to spot up for 3. That means you go to the rim because you're long, athletic, and probably quicker than they are. Just use it because that's a good thing for you. You actually have the advantage. So like they just knew what to do. They read up on it. They knew exactly how to like goat Cleveland into being a lesser version of themselves. So good on the Pacers. They did everything right. Lots of adjustments, I assume, will be coming for Kenny Atkinson's troops in game 2.
The other thing I wanted to ask you too is what did you make of Cleveland's approach with Tyrese Halliburton? Well, it's kind of twofold for me is the approach to guarding Tyrese Halliburton, who, by the way, while all these other Pacers are hitting these wide open threes, he was 1 of 5 on unguarded threes. So you could argue that Cleveland almost got lucky in this scenario. But again, you're not going to have Nesmith and Nembhard shoot as well as they did. Because I guess what I'm asking is, were you surprised that we just didn't see more of Isaac Okoro in general, or Isaac Okoro and DeAndre Hunter specifically on Tyrese Halliburton? And just based off what you did see, if Cleveland wants to play this way, I know he didn't have when you look at the on-offs, like Evan Mobley was a -20 in this game, but do you give any merit to the idea that, maybe this isn't going to be a Jared Allen series if they're going to feel so inclined to help when he's one of the guys caught in space?
This is not something I thought about, so it's pretty difficult to give you an answer on that. I didn't really pay attention, I think, to has Isaac Okoro like been enough on Tyrese Halliburton today? I generally think Isaac Okoro tends to play a little too few minutes in the playoffs, especially. Now, I understand he's a weird player because if he's not hitting from the corners, he becomes like a fully one-side player, a one-way player, and that is just so tough to live with in the playoffs, especially now in the second round where things get tough. But his defensive versatility, I think, is very underrated. I wouldn't hate to see him stick more on Tyrese in the coming games, but it's not something I thought about, to just be completely transparent.
I don't trust his offense. And I think that to your point about how he hasn't played consistently in the postseason for his career, really, where he sees his minutes tamped down. I really did think this is just something, maybe I'm latching onto it because I was wrong about it. I just thought we were going to see more of DeAndre Hunter specifically in those situations. But that might be something I might try. Is he's not the best defender. He's not super long, but he does have size, and maybe you could,
he's big.
Yeah.
He's like a big 6'8", long arms, So I don't remember who wrote this. This is years ago. I think, was it before the draft? Might have been before he was drafted. Someone said in their pre-draft analysis about Hunter, and I agree with it entirely, that when you look at his size, his torso is very broad. We can talk about, he's 6'8", long-armed, but he's got a very broad torso, so he just takes up so much space, and he looks significantly bigger than what he is. If he was listed at 6'10", no one would bat an eye. You'd believe it because he just looks enormous out there. So I do think the element of size can definitely be a bit of a deterrent. Yeah.
Anything else on that game one? I don't really want to boil it down to, I think Cleveland's going to hit more shots. But
I do have something. Aaron Nesmith. I know wide open shots. That's one thing, but he's always been one of those players who I think has been underrated in playoff context specifically because he's scalable. If you're going to give him those shots, you know what? Yeah, he can hit them. It's not a question of, if you up his 3-point volume, he's probably going to be less efficient. No, you can scale that dude up significantly if the need arises. And if you leave him alone behind the 3-point line and you do so regularly, he is going to punish you consistently. So it feels as though the NBA, and this isn't just the Cleveland, this isn't just the Cavaliers, it's generally speaking, I think there are a lot of teams in the NBA who aren't really aware of how good of a shooter he actually is, Nesmith, but also just how scalable he is. I think that is still a secret that the Pacers are very much enjoying because he is so good and he's so crucial to their play at the wing spot. He can play down a position to the 2. He can play up a position to the 4. Like, he is a Swiss Army knife. He's become a much better rebounder of late. Now, I know he
led them in offensive rebounds in round 1.
He did, and he's not a like an assist creator in that sense, but he does move the ball pretty quickly and regularly. I think when he's in the game, the ball doesn't stick with him. Like, he moves it on quickly if he doesn't have a shot. Like, he's not a playmaker, but he just knows, oh yeah, I need to get the ball out of my hands right now because I'm not a shot creator. Like, this is one of those guys who just has complete role acceptance, and that goes so far in the postseason. Big kudos to Aaron Nesmith for just being consistently great at continuing to be undervalued somehow. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I wrote about him too right before the start of the series. I'm glad you mentioned him. The scalability is like the perfect word for it. And even so like the quicker decision making that he's kind of honed over the past couple of years. He doesn't like shoot an astronomical percentage on drives, but just as someone who will make the quick decision to put the ball on the floor. He's pretty strong, gets shoulders into guys, can draw. I think he drew a foul on a drive in game 1. And then I really think it's big. I think what did he end up with 5 fouls in this one? So there will be times where it's like it feels like he might be in foul trouble, but last series he's defending Giannis. You see him spend a lot of time on Max Strus in game 1. So like the fact that you mentioned scale up or down, and this was actually a number to put that to, is when you look at his like positional distribution of how he defended the 1 through 4 this year, the only players who like matched it, like that versatility in as many minutes, were Jimmy Butler and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And so it's like not the most elite company. You're using Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be a disruptor, but just this idea that you have someone who, he will defend Giannis, but he will also go defend Max Strus. But like you will also see him go on to some smaller guards. And there will just be like, Giannis 8 in that series, but he kind of limits the way he plays, limits the amount of help that you're going to have to send his way. And it's just that like you're right. Underappreciated is the best way to say it, because I would say like, I think the Cavs I saw him spend the most time on, I thought we were going to see him more on Mobley a little bit, but I think we saw him on Hunter, Jerome, and Strus, 3 very different players. And maybe like, I guess you wouldn't call them like size, but like that's real versatility there and super plug and play on offense. So that is, I think at this point, you probably make the case that Andrew Nembhard is just the team's biggest playoff. Andrew Nembhard is an experience, and you get those moments peppered throughout the regular season where he's hitting these off the dribble jumpers, but he just bust out a step back and drain it. In addition to shouldering probably their heaviest, at least in this series, it'll be their heaviest defensive workload. I think you could make the case for Nesmith or Siakam or even Turner last series. So this team, functional depth. I think we kind of just like the Indiana Pacers can continue to prove everybody wrong. And I'm not ready to count out the Cavs in this series, but for idiots like me who are ready to pick the Cavs in 5, it does feel like this one's destined, whether Garland plays in game 2 or not, to go longer.
I had Nembhard as one of my first round X factors in a piece over at Yahoo before the playoffs. It's the one pick where I felt very comfortable with that because I went in a lot of different directions with a lot of other teams and players. But that was the one thing where I immediately, we're at the Pacers now. Yeah, that's Andrew Nembhard. He just feels like a guy who kind of hides himself a little bit in the regular season, almost by design. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this 80%. And like, that's fine. We'll make it through the regular season. Now we make it to the playoffs. Now's my time. Now, fresh legs. Now I've got 82 games under my belt, or however many games he played. Now's the time to roll up my sleeves and go to work. That's interesting. Like, I don't think a lot of players would attack it like that, but I almost have to assume that that's the plan for him because the contrast is just so stark. I cannot in any way imagine that he's approaching the game in the same way in the regular season as he is in the playoffs. I kind of refuse to believe that.
I mean, he's got that Jimmy Butler gene in him, right? Or do we call it the Buddy Hield gene now after that game 7 against the Rockets?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Anything else on this series?
So actually, Donovan Mitchell, just because, like I said, I thought he got goaded into taking certain shots and he kind of obliged. I would like to see if he goes back to the tape and it's like, you know what? Some of these driving lanes, yeah, I can use them, but that doesn't mean I have to finish them. Like maybe I use myself as a little bit of a decoy. Maybe I break down the defense. Maybe we have some weak side action cutting to the basket because of those movements. I wouldn't be surprised, to use a Ted Lasso phrase, you shouldn't pass to me, you should pass through me. That would be the way to go about it. I think he has to go Jamie Tart on their asses.
And with that said, until next time, and as always, we leave the shout out to the one, the only, the indelible Frank Ntilikina.